Hello and welcome to the Kopala TV main news. And now for our headlines. CEC commences KCM power restriction process. Moose urges ZESCO to consistently supply power to KCM. Teachers praise government for reopening of schools. And in international news, South Africa eases COVID-19 restrictions. Join us in a bit after this. To present the Kopala TV main news, my name is Wabwila Musongole. Copperbelt Energy Corporation PLC CEC commenced the process of discontinuing power provision to Kopala Copper Mine KCM yesterday. The decision by CEC comes because the firm currently has no contractual basis to continue providing the service to KCM, adding that KCM has an outstanding debt to CEC of about $144 million and the issue has remained without an agreed solution between the two parties. In a statement made available to Kopala TV News, CEC noted that the decision has been taken to protect and enforce CEC's commercial rights and ensure that the company does not engage in reckless trading. Copperbelt University lecturer in the School of Environmental Engineering, Brian Chirambo, has encouraged the continued diversification of power generation, mainly the use of waste to generate energy. Dr. Chirambo addressed the slow pace in terms of execution of such projects in Zambia, emphasizing on the high demand for energy in sub-Saharan Africa, adding that more investments toward power generation should be made. Dr. Chirambo said this in an interview with Kopala TV News.
Okay, so there is, of course, there are many ways in which waste is being used to generate electricity. And I think there's no need to reinvent the wheel. And this is why sometimes we wonder why government is taking too long to start investing in such particular sources. This is not a new science. It is being done world over, where waste, either through methane, people are able to generate power from the same waste dumps, and also where the same waste in other places are used in digesters, and they're able to produce electricity and energy. But, for the past few years, what we have seen, especially here in Zambia, is that there's been a slow pace. The ideas are there on the table, but there's a slow pace from the government to move in that direction, a slow pace in terms of investment to move in that direction. You see, there's, just recently, a few days ago, if you remember, the government was saying they have set aside 10 billion kwacha, which they want small and medium enterprises to tap into. But they have not provided clear guidelines on how that money can be utilized. For me, what that tells me is that there is money, but yet people don't want to spend it. Firstly, the government itself, they don't want to invest it in the right areas. The demand for energy here in Zambia and the sub-Saharan Africa is so huge. So if you have $10 billion and there are all these solutions that are lying on the table, what is taking you too long to invest in them? So energy from waste, like I said, is not a new science. It has been proven. It is working world over. All we need is a political will and the decision to invest in it. And the people of Zambia will start enjoying those sources. If the government itself cannot do it, there are a number of private companies within Zambia, some of them even including universities, that are capable of coming up and setting up such kind of facilities. But of course, they are not being supported. So the biggest problem that we have is a political will to just make a decision and things will be happening. The Copperbelt University has highly qualified, electrical engineers. You go to UNZA, highly qualified people who, if given an opportunity, they would put up something that can either power even just a Copperbelt province or the Kipwe district. But they're not being utilized because there's lack of political will. But I also want to mention another thing about waste energy. The challenge that, of course, many people will talk about in terms of its viability is the amount of waste that you're generating. Probably some other countries that you've seen that are in waste energy, they have even started importing waste from other countries. So, of course, the argument has been that the waste that Zambia is generating cannot sustain the facilities for a long time. But what that all it does is that they're talking about large scale, where you want to supply your energy for the entire country. But for a particular area, for example, keep a district alone, you can gather the waste across the country, and you'll be able to power your systems, for a longer period, sustainably so. So it is not about, I'm not trying to say that it should be at a large scale where the entire nation is powered by power from the waste generated, but just even a particular town, a particular district, and just focus on that area. So like I said, the science is not new. The money is there. As the government pushes, the money is there. All we need is a political will.
In case you have just tuned in, you are watching the Kopala TV main news. Join us in a bit after our commercial break.
Looking for an opportunity to grow your business? Well, Kopala TV has good news for all small-scale businesses. You can now advertise on Kopala TV's Makwebo. Bonseba na mayo na bashtata. Iseni mulangishe amakwebo yenu pamutengo uachepa nga 100 kwacha. Yes, you heard right. For as low as 100 kwacha, your business will get its peak. Whatever the business, we will advertise. All you need to do is send a text of what your business offers, indicating the name, location, and contact details to the number below. Payment for the advertising spot can be made through MTN mobile money on the number down below. Makwebo, make your business known.
Welcome back. The Mine Workers Union of Zambia, MUZ, is calling on ZESCO to consistently supply power to KCM as they take over from CEC, saying the mine is very profound, hence requires power consistently. Details are in the following report.
Mining is a very crucial part of Zambia's economy, with a direct contribution to the country's GDP of about 11%. That is why Mine Union of Zambia MUZ is concerned with ZESCO's supply of power to Kopala Copper Mine KCM. MUZ President Joseph Chewo says there is need for ZESCO to put in place a dedicated team that would ensure that power is supplied to the mine constantly. The Mine Union is calling on ZESCO to constantly supply power to KCM as it takes over from CEC, saying mines are profound, hence requires power constantly.
I think the issue of ZESCO taking over supply of power to KCM is now water under the bridge. Now, what we should now call upon ZESCO is to realize that they are now supplying power to sensitive areas, and sensitive areas is KCM. So it's the mines which requires power throughout the day, 24 hours, 365 days in a year without interruption. And this is the area that they have entered. So what is now is to put dedicated team that will ensure that there is supply of power 24/7, 395, so that we don't risk either flooding the mine or even the ventilation underground, depends on the power.
However, the resident says ZESCO supplying power to KCM will leave a number of residential areas in the dark.
That one with me, it's a non-starter. that's a failed project. And I hope I'm going to be proved wrong. Why I'm saying this is, already now, that Zambian, who is, just a down Zambian, is going to face more load shedding hours so that KCM can be producing. And running a mine, the production and the power which goes on, it's very, very much bigger, like the load which we are supposed to be having here.
Opofie, bali filokita manage. Amalites domestic, amalites amayanda. What more amalites ya supply ku KCM, ya supply ma mines. Shaba zesko tuwa kwanisha, tabaka kwanisha hiyo. Balefa fe kulema fatu wa chefs.
Meanwhile, CEC has commenced the process of discontinuing power to KCM. Victoria Mkupo reporting in Kitwe.
Teachers have praised government for reopening schools across the country and putting in place all the necessary preventive measures in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Details are in the following report.
A new term has begun for teachers and learners in examination classes across the country. The schools that were closed in March 2020 in the wake of the COVID-19 has begun at a very good note. The schools, along with the teacher unions, have joined forces to fight the global pandemic. The teachers, who are also frontliners in the fight against the COVID-19, are pleased with government for reopening schools.
It's a good initiative because, the learners have stayed away from school for a longer period of time, and especially for examination classes, and in which they need to write their exams. So, like at our school, Malala Secondary School, we have put things in place. The school has bought buckets. They have even bought disinfectants. The classes will be disinfected each time the learners they will be leaving the classes, and even in the morning, the learners have also been told to keep their surroundings clean at all times.
Meanwhile, the learners pointed out a number of challenges.
I was so disturbed with the schools, we closed for 3 months, so it was very disturbing. Like, how can I study with this coronavirus? I wasn't even going to watch these 2 extra lessons, so I was very disturbed. So maybe I hope that they would help us in all the subjects that we've not learned, help us to do it very well.
However, the learners are delighted to be back in school.
We had to close school because we were scared of getting in contact with it. But thank God for now, we have opened school. I thank the government, and our timetable has been commenced. We have started learning again.
The learners are looking forward to writing exams in December 2020. Victoria Mkupo, Kopala TV News in Kitwe.
You are still watching the Kopala TV main news. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Kuna nubutuku bobuncha bobutira malifasi wa coronavirus 2019 bobu hasanela malina hazengata zalifasi sinarubia lisupo nilipona hazo zezibahala linga chwaro kotola liberenge kuferero kimoya nikufipelwa hapo hulile utisaka tavi nikusasebeza kwa lipio fokonwe mane ukona kutisalifu haiba kusala fiwe mutukawo fela omwakozi yakuyambula kutukubo virus ye iyambukela katu loteli twamoya totuzwa kwa kuhotola kapa kuitimula kwa mukuli wa butukubo mukana kuyambula butukubo hayaba musutela mutu yakola butukubo kapa lifolofolo nizezwa pali folofolo kupotela libaka ezena ni butukubo kutisakozi yakuyambula kuli museleleze ni kuselelezana babamwe kutabe kwa mazoho kamulola mezi yakinile kamita kapa kuitusisa miliani yakutola kwa mazoho mwapehe kubulisa licho zanama nima yande haiba muna ni virus ye musika muhasanya butuku kakubona kuli mwakwahela kwa mulomo ni kwango ka ngokolwa yeputirwe kapatishu amuhotola kapa kuitimula ni mutape kwa mazoho isaliwa na 4 haiva mukayeleza kuli mina walupasi lwa mina kapa mutufi kapa ufi una ni coronavirus 29 mubateka la 4 isaliwa na 4 kasipatela tesile kupa ufi ni mina titabaze mulifisizwe kibali kolola makete ne bazidi IPHI katuso yababa sebesana ni bona.
Looking for an opportunity to grow your business? Well, Kopala TV has good news for all small-scale businesses. You can now advertise on Kopala TV's Makwebo. Bonseba na mayo na bashtata. Iseni mulangishe amakwebo yenu pamutengo uachepa nga 100 kwacha. Yes, you heard right. For as low as 100 kwacha, your business will get its peak. Whatever the business, we will advertise. All you need to do is send a text of what your business offers, indicating the name, location, and contact details to the number below. Payment for the advertising spot can be made through MTN mobile money on the number down below. Makwebo, make your business known.
Welcome back, and now in foreign news. South Africa has eased some of the restrictions 2 months after it started one of the strictest lockdowns on the continent. The partial lifting of measures allows more people to return to work, and places of worship have also reopened. But restarting schools has been postponed by a week after a teachers' union complained that not enough has been done to keep students safe. We monitored Al Jazeera for this report.
Some parents in the Western Cape province are angry that schools there have reopened. They say staff are not prepared to keep students safe 2 months into a national lockdown that's kept people indoors except for essential services or to buy food. Across the rest of South Africa, schools remained closed, a last-minute decision by the government now postponing the reopening for a week.
Our main concerns were the non-compliance by the schools in terms of the COVID-19 regulations that have been published by our government. And around those particular issues were the issues that deal with the health and the safety of our learners, as well as our workers and the teachers in our schools.
The government's eased other restrictions, including the ban on the sale of alcohol, which will be sold for consumption at home on specified days and during certain hours, but the sale of tobacco products is still prohibited. The government has been under pressure to reopen the economy, which was already in recession before the lockdown began. It's estimated that millions will lose their jobs if the strict measures are extended. Most industries have reopened, with more than 8 million South Africans returning to work under what the government calls strict health protocols. But as millions of people use public transport to get to and from work, there are concerns that social distancing may not be possible. Restaurants, bars and cinemas remain shut. The owners of this restaurant in Johannesburg say they've had to improvise to keep their business going, transforming it into a health food emporium. It may be months before restaurants can open their doors.
Previously, our business was about 90% of the sit-down business of the restaurant. So we realized that we couldn't kind of wait. We don't have the resources to wait that long. So we needed to look for a new way to actually generate revenue.
The government has identified hotspots around the country, including major cities such as Johannesburg, Durban and Cape Town. It says that while the lockdown has been eased, the restrictions in these cities will be revised every 2 weeks. With more than 30,000 infections, there are concerns that South Africa is months away from hitting the peak of the pandemic. Health experts say that could happen between July and November, causing at least 40,000 deaths. The worry now is that a lack of adequate preparation might worsen the outcome. Famida Miller, Al Jazeera, Johannesburg.
Iran's foreign minister says the Iranian scientist imprisoned in the US is now on his way back home. Cyrus Asghari had been pleading for weeks to be released from an immigration center after contracting COVID-19. Asghari has been in custody since 2017 while on trial for charges of fraud and selling state secrets. Askari was acquitted last month but was transferred into immigration custody over an expired U.S. visa. We monitored Al Jazeera once again.
Well, Rochelle, we know that this morning the Foreign Minister Javad Zarif sent out a message on his Instagram account saying, "Hello, friends, good news. A plane carrying Dr. Sudus Askari flew from the United States," and he sent a congratulations to Mr. Askari's wife and family. Now, Sudus Askari was on trial in a federal court in Ohio. His trial started in 2018. He was acquitted last month of charges of wire fraud, visa fraud, and as well as stealing trade secrets. Mr. Askari was a material sciences professor. He has a position at Sharif University here in Iran. And as many things happen between the United States and Iran, he's become a bit of a playing card in a broader political game. From the United States, there were frustrations from officials there about Iran not arranging or making the arrangements for the return of Askari, as well as other Iranian citizens that the United States said they wanted to return. And Iran has been criticizing officials over and over again over the last few weeks and months, have been criticizing the United States for not making a speedy return of its citizens. There's at least 20 or so Iranians thought to be held in the United States. Mr. Askari is one of them. There are 5 Americans being held in Iranian custody. One of the most high-profile of them is a Navy veteran named Mark White, who was arrested last year for visiting Mashhad. He was reported to have been visiting a woman with whom he was in a romantic relationship and was arrested and detained. He's currently in Swiss custody. He was released for the sake of trying to protect him from the spread of COVID-19 in the prison systems. Now, there's been a lot of speculation as to whether or not any of the prisoners being held in Iran will be released as Mr. Askari is on a plane making his way home. But the fact of the matter is that many people are also saying that Mr. Askari's release is basically a function of the U.S. court system, not necessarily something that would lead to any kind of prisoner swap. But nonetheless, there is speculation here that this...
Finally, in foreign news, a week after the killing of George Floyd, an African-American who died while being detained by police in Minneapolis, there have been more protests and violence in cities across the U.S. It has become America's worst episode of racial and social unrest since the 1960s. President Trump has been criticized for telling state governors to take a much tougher line with the protesters. George Floyd's brother has told demonstrators that his family is peace-loving and that violence will not bring the change the black community needs and deserves. George Floyd died after being pinned to the ground by a white police officer who kept his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck. The officer has been fired and is facing a charge of murder. We monitored the BBC for this report.
7 days after the death of George Floyd, his brother returned to the place where he drew his last desperate breaths.
What's his name? George Floyd! What's his name? George Floyd!
This was more than a stop on a private journey of grief. It was an appeal to end the violence that exploded in protests over the brutality of his killing.
Let's stop thinking that our voice don't matter. That's right. And vote. Let's switch it up. Yes. Amen. Do this peacefully. Please.
No justice! No peace!
Protests the day before were largely peaceful, but as night fell, demonstrators defied orders to go home and promised to keep coming back.
Even if it thins out today, there's tomorrow. Understand that. You can't kill all 400,000 of us or 1 million of us. You can't do it in one whop.
Do you think these protests are different than others that have happened?
Yeah, because we tired. We tired.
The curfew has just ended and police are dispersing the protesters. They seem to have gained the upper hand now and they want to consolidate that control. It's been a week since George Floyd died, but it's going to take more than curfews and physical force to deal with the damage that was done.
Security forces have come down like a hammer here to restore order. But the case of George Floyd has refocused attention on the long-standing problem of police violence. Because of this graphic video, which showed Mr. Floyd expire in real time as he begged to be able to breathe. The officer pinned him to the ground with a knee to his neck for nearly 9 minutes. Derek Chauvin was charged with murder and manslaughter, but he already had a bad record, at least 17 misconduct complaints. An official autopsy said this wasn't the direct cause of Mr. Floyd's death, although Mr. Chauvin was charged with third-degree murder. An independent autopsy released today says otherwise.
The evidence is consistent with mechanical asphyxia as the cause of death and homicide as the manner of death.
The public fury has been punctuated by a rare show of solidarity from individual members of the security forces.
Shaking a hand.
Thank you.
Here, the National Guard, but police officers across the country have made similar gestures. No sign of reconciliation from the president, though.
If you don't dominate, you're wasting your time. They're going to run over you. You're going to look like a punching jerk.
The president spoke after a weekend of chaos across the country. He's literally under siege, with protesters chanting at the doorstep of the White House and setting fires in the Capitol. In San Diego, more than 100 were arrested as police moved in with tear gas. And in New York, a curfew has been imposed tonight after police fought running battles with protesters. Today was a moment of reflection in Minneapolis, where it all started. People feel like they've been here many times before, outrage over a brutal death that didn't lead to change. But they're wondering whether, just maybe, this time it might.
That item wraps up the Kopala TV main news for today, but before we go, we recap on our headlining stories. CEC commences KCM power restriction process. Moose urges ZESCO to consistently supply power to KCM. Teachers praise government for reopening of schools. And in international news, South Africa eases COVID-19 restrictions. Thank you for watching the Kopala TV main news. Make sure to join our online community by liking our Facebook page and subscribing to our YouTube channel, both at Kopala TV. From all of us here at Kopala TV, my name is Olwila Musongole, and have a good day.